So I wanted to show you one of my favorite perfume bottles is Spark. I don't know if you can actually see it. When I came out to Ohio, the person that I was staying with, this is the perfume that they used, and I used all the way up until like the last few years. It's called Spark, I think by Liz Claiborne, and I'm finally getting ready to throw it away. I wanted to make a video a while ago. I switched over to another perfume for temporary because I could not find anything that I liked as much as this. It has a beautiful smell and it lasts a long time. I went through a couple bottles of it since coming to Ohio, and I have not really gotten that much time to go out to browse around, and I like to test them myself and see what they smell like, and it's kind of difficult at some of the retail stores to be able to be at one with the perfume section without somebody having to open up the glass case and, go through all of that. So I just kind of put that off. I found some perfume. I gave it a try. It's okay. Not the same. This is really, or was really good stuff. And I think there's still some available, like online. The price of it is a little bit more expensive than it was before, I guess, because they discontinued it. But I love Spark, one of my favorite perfumes. And into the trash she goes. I held on to the bottle for quite a while. Also, something else that I'm getting ready to throw away is I'm going through and I cleaned my entire apartment and fixed a lot of the things that were broken. I made a little carton with duct tape in a box to put some of my music on display at a store over at BP gas station. It's when a gentleman by the name of Tony had worked there, and he was really friendly, and somehow we got into the conversation of me recording music. I don't remember if I had given them a copy or what have you, but I had asked. Somehow, for some reason, it came up about setting a display of just a few of my CDs there to see if anybody would be interested in it. And it was there for a while, and nobody was interested. So I ended up bringing it home. I had the box for quite a while, and because I was just saving it in one of my drawers, and I need drawer space to save other things in that I'm actively using, at least on occasion, I decided I'm going to finally get rid of that. It's a memory for me of a season of time before I was mentally being abused as much as to the extreme as I am. There were some happy moments and very memorable moments because I used to go to the store a lot, especially like in the winter and stuff. If my groceries were running low and I wanted to stay busy in the recording studio and I didn't want to go anywhere, I'd go over there and grab, some snacky type stuff or breakfast and sometimes coffee. It was a fun experience for me for a while it lasted. I guess he moved on to other places and other people came in and managed the store and everything, and now the store is not active anymore. So I think I did a video blog on it at one time, and I'm very grateful that it was here while I recorded my first 2 albums, and it helped me out when I was in a pinch, and slowly I started getting more into making my own coffee and stuff here at home, because originally I didn't want to drink that much coffee, and not drinking that much coffee led into drinking a lot more coffee than I care to drink. But it's to kind of comfort me in the morning a little bit with something warm and flavored. It's not so much for the caffeine as much as it is something tasty to have on my taste buds as I start the day. So anyway, the 2018 CD was over at BP for a little while, and I never got to the point of ever giving any of the CDs to anyone that I made recently, but I made a new updated version of the recent recordings of like a promo CD, hoping to eventually get out of the studio setting and more into connecting with others, and also visiting some people that I still love very dearly, to be able to give them a little bit of some of the recordings that I have done, to share my music and stuff. I've always been that way since the recordings were done, even in the early 2000s, working with Andy, and back then I sold some and I gave a lot of them away, and it's amazing how helpful that a lot of people were. I share the story that I would sell my promo CDs for $5, and for each CD that I sold, a percentage of that, whatever was left over after all the expenses of making the CD and the label and everything, actually paid for my recordings back then. Eventually, there was generous times that people offered a lot more than $5 for a CD, and I appreciate that, especially back then, because the difficulties in connecting with other people, especially in musical advancement, that's what I call it, to advance more into your interest, was very difficult for me. It seems like it would be a lot easier than what is actually faced on a daily basis. So anyway, that's something that I made out of a cardboard box and duct tape. And it's time to say goodbye to that as well. Hopefully I get a picture of it at some point before I throw it away. I don't throw away a whole lot of things, especially if I make them, but if I realize that living in a small apartment, cluttering things, I'm not really into that. And I think I shared my album art, and I just wanted to make sure that was important to me. That's what originally was in my picture frame that I was attempting to give as a gift to J.O.N. That is the back, and that is the inside. A whole lot of pictures from over the years of when I was more into modeling, and whether it be dressing for the occasion and lighting and camera distance and all that other stuff. I was really getting into that part of photography. And unfortunately, I never really connected with a whole lot of people that were even interested with that with me in doing endeavors. So psychologically, a lot of the things that I end up being more interested in, like with music and entertainment and stuff, seems to be more of an obstacle at times than it appears that it would be. Through my earlier years of struggles psychologically, in connecting with the human race and trying to get involved in life's importance, how do you connect with the human race? What do you do? And same with what people would call a livelihood. What do you do for work? And if you have interest in things that you're interested in, what are the better ways of going about work and life together in a combination with your desires especially? Very, very difficult. For me it was, and the more that I got focused into the Word of God, the more that I got more interested in my own interest, a lot of it ends up being more of a center focused on self rather than what people would say community type offerings in some way. And then you get into perceptions of, is not a human maximizing a full potential at being a human being good enough in the world that we live in? That is a beautiful conversation that is kind of like an arm wrestling match, I guess, depending on who it is. Because a lot of people's idea of life is about going about things, and what I realize more and more is a foolish approach, and is more for people that might be lost or in a situation where they really do not know what to do. I met people that they're even unfamiliar with any greater interest for some reason from within themselves. Ended up doing a lot of what people would call soul searching, spiritual searching. What does God want from me as a human being? Is there a God that loves me? Etc., etc. Led up to where I am today, finding out and learning that if I were to serve more of what's going on inside of my head, life becomes a lot more enjoyable and beautiful, and I have never once had a bored moment in my existence since moving to this apartment, having at least a little bit of money and understanding ways that I could go about living while I do the things I want to do, which seems like it would be more common sense for me to do what I want even if you get into the business world of occupation. And then it becomes foolish that you would have any conversation as anyone else would be any more worthy to do endeavors with, or that they would be, superior in the field, the same field that you stand and serve in. I guess we all have our own struggles. I learned a lot because I was reading the Bible and doing entertainment at the same time, of the struggles versus whatever's going on in the human race and what they want versus the inner truth of what is desired greater causes a great deal of conflicts. And that's not like an intention, I don't think, from anyone. I think that is what happens. For instance, more bands are interested in making a greater impact into the human race in doing music that they appreciate, where I have been there, I have served at, and it's not like it's all bad. However, if you get into the inner truth and you really start serving more of what it is that you desire, you realize how off track a person's whole appearance and what it is that they would be doing with the same tools would be. For instance, instead of using my gifts and my talents and encouraging drinking at a bar room as a good time, I would be in a beautiful home environment with quality resources, recording the greatest songs ever recorded in the world. Which makes more sense to me if you ever turn on the radio and you have disgust like I do. You get sick of hearing the same people your whole life. You get sick of hearing songs that you have no real psychological connectivity to, and the praises of many. When I share my stories, as I'm going to right now, of like guitarists or bands that inspired me as I was going through life, these are at different times and places in my life journey. Being a teenager and with all my psychological struggles versus years of pondering and years of studying psychology, years of being buried in the Holy Bible, years of worshiping at a public church, years of praying, years of seeking, years of my own psychological struggle, even in the challenge of writing what would be perceived as a hit song, meaning a powerful, commercially poppy type song, which is something I was always attracted to my whole life. I love poppy music, and therefore it's diversity. I like music, not just talent. However, talent is very impressive and it's interesting and fun to watch. And a person like myself could only wish that something, whether it's playing guitar, building a car, or arts and crafts, that the turnout would be marvelous works as well. So I did the best that I can, and I'm impressed with the results of everything. I understand imperfections, and I understand within myself and in the music some of that which I wish could be honed a little bit better, whether it's editing or EQing abilities or selection of instruments, whether MIDI or, using quality versus something inexpensive, with a lot of challenges in that. Music. Do you just play an instrument and go through life and pretend you're happy? Or do you long for the day that if you're disconnect from healthy relationships mentally, because the way the world functions in general, the human race, where's your place? And how do you go about it with those challenges? Is it something that you can maintain a psychology to endure it? And that's what I had to do while being here, while going through the mental challenges of being assaulted continuously. The more that you love to do and want to do, it seems that something does not want you to do it. And therefore, me sharing my blog today was like a joy, because I do love to talk, and I think I'm intellectually smart, to a lot of things, mainly because of all the psychological struggles I had and questions, have all been answered. Every single one of them, to me, whether through literature or through real life witnessing. So before I get started, I'm going to turn my light around and show what I tried to show before, which I did in pictures, and you might not see it because the lighting is not that good right now. But this is something that I got from the Huber Heights house, a little end table, and when I got it, I was thinking that it'll be a piece of furniture that I can make do with. Somehow it'll be helpful, and I ended up using it in the studio in 2019 until the recent times for a lot of different things, like setting my interface on it and setting a drink like on a towel or something on the table so it'd be close to me and keep it away from the computer type thing. I also use it over on my treadmill, so I can put my speakers there and I can listen to it. I love to listen to music while I'm jogging or walking. It's one of my psychological things to do to keep me a little bit closer to peace. Some form of exercise. I feel kind of like a hamster in here sometimes, you know. That's my wheel, you know, a treadmill. I did all cleaning in this apartment, like ceiling to floor. I cleaned areas within the apartment that I have not cleaned as in depth before, and miraculous is the turnout. It took me quite a long time with doing my other musical stuff, so I do it in between, a little bit here, a little bit there, and I took a pine saw bucket, and this is probably a big no-no for anybody that owns furniture, but I gave it a bath, sort of, with a rag, and it seemed to take a lot of the clear coat off, but there was like this white gooky stuff that was dried on there. I don't know if it was another kind of clear coat, or if it was like a spray that they put on and it kind of dried to it, or what happened to it. Obviously was not, to me, in the better of shape, which, even though you could see the structure of it was there, the form of it was nice, I think in washing it, and it removes some of the stain with the pine saw for whatever reason. It's pretty strong, I guess, to do that to a wooded project that's stained with clear coat on. But I ended up washing a lot of that stuff off, and I was worried. I thought I ruined it. But as it dried, and it's weird, like magic, it just kind of like all of a sudden appeared a different color, like something else changed the color of the wood right before my eyes. And there was like sort of blotches, but not blotches. It's kind of hard to explain, but instead of it just being an even stained brown, it ended up, some of the wood appeared, and the stain was thinned out at different places and thicker at other places, and some of it seemed to be like the raw wood, but it all happened at once right before my eyes, like something did it. And I thought to myself, it doesn't look so bad. Like, I actually really liked it, and I was concerned because I thought, oh, I ruined it, you know. And I figured, you know, because of my feelings on it, I'd probably either get rid of it eventually when I move, or if I ever got new furniture, I could finally, you know, get newer stuff, then I'd probably get rid of it then. So I felt like it was a temporary piece. Then I looked things up online, and I watched a few people with clear coat, and I went out and I got some, and I figured I'll try because I need it for a season of time. I glued and fixed some of the legs and stuff because they were like kind of like loose a little bit in the joints, I guess you call it. And I clear coated it one time, and I couldn't believe how nice it turned out. So I flipped it around then, put it on its feet, and I ended up clear coating it a couple times, and I think it turned out really cool. Like, it's my favorite appearance-wise. It's one of my favorite pieces of furniture in this home now. I couldn't believe the turnaround. It went from being, I don't want to say ugly, but it wasn't the prettiest piece of furniture in appearance to me, even though I like the wood form. But now it's very sharp looking. I like it a lot. You see how the wood is like that? It was not like that, and then all of a sudden it was. Look at this here. You see that? It's gorgeous. And I like it because it has hearts on the side. I think whoever designed it did a really, really good job with it. And now I patiently wait and hope that I can maintain taking care of it, because I like to actually use it for the things that I said. I'll do the best I can to kind of protect it. I have more clear coat, and I understand how I got there, and there's more about sanding and stuff if I would ever have to do something like that. I hope I don't for a long time if I do, but nevertheless, it's beautiful and I love it. I did show this earlier, but they, for some reason, deleted my video. But the joints right here in my drawers, on a lot of them, they were starting to come loose from opening and closing them continuously, and I don't always do it so slow and graceful. Sometimes you're in a hurry, you open it up, you grab what you need, you close it, and you try to keep it in mind to be delicate with it, but you know, things happen, and those joints, especially for whatever reason, the wood unfortunately seems a little dry at spots. Even though I try to maintain humidity and temperature and everything consistent, you would think that it would not be like that, but what ended up happening is some of the stuff either was or is kind of dry. The joints separate, and then the drawer came off one time when I opened it, and I was like, ah! I went through that sporadically throughout life where that happened, and believe it or not, I didn't really know what to do about it. I'm not that great with wood, and I took my time to go out and use Gorilla Glue, and I put it together here in the home, and so far it's holding up really good. I got some new knobs. This one here had one of these. Okay, both of them did. And when I got the drawer, when I got the dresser, even in Huber Heights, it was missing a knob, and there was a leather string there. And I used that leather string, but sometimes the humidity in here, this drawer will swell, the wood will swell, and I can't get it open. And then unfortunately I have to use a screwdriver or something to try to get it out, and then if you're not careful, then you mess up the wood. So I kind of messed it up a little bit here on the side. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I kind of messed it up a little bit, and you know, that kind of saddened me a little bit, but I didn't know what else to do. Everything's stuck in there. I got my paperwork and stuff in there. My ink. Well, not my paperwork, but a paper like new paper, you know, to use for the printer and stuff. So anyway, I finally went online, and then I went to Home Depot and I got myself some new knobs. And I was hoping that I could find matching knobs for whatever these are, the handles, because I like that. I like the sound of it. It reminds me of dressers I had back in the 70s and 80s. And I always liked that for some reason. So you lift those up and pull it out and stuff. But the traditional knobby things here, they have seemed to work out pretty good. It's a little bit loose there. I didn't want to over tighten it because it has a plate on here. But anyway, it's amazing. I put that together. I fixed a lot of the stuff that was going on here with the drawers and the joints and everything. And I just have to show this because I did show it, and maybe that's why they deleted it. This is a different camera. Ding, ding, ding. Gorilla Glue. I never knew what Gorilla Glue was until I came to Ohio. Somebody that I lived with, they used it, and I used to have problems with the glue and saving it, especially like crazy glue, especially when like I'd be done with it and I put the cap on. It was almost always obvious who did that, which would be me, because unfortunately the lid would be glued fast to the tube, and then you couldn't use it unless you like cracked the tube open, or if you're like me, pliers And vice grips, sometimes you can get it on and break off the lid, crack it open. And then there's a little bit of glue there you can use. I told that story a little bit earlier and it was a lot more interesting, but this is like the second time around. Did you ever use glue and have to use pliers or vice grips to open it back up like a week later or a few days later? I was known to do that. And I never understood that. So, get glue, it's like you could use it once and then that's it, The rest of the tube of the glue, and pretty much either throw it away or you have to go through that or split it open, crack up the tube, and then you can kind of use it sloppily like that. But that I'm impressed with, because if you keep the tip clean and you keep the lid clean and you put it on carefully, that glue I have been using since I lived here has been very helpful in a lot of things that I do that I need glue. It's very strong too. It's a big ape. King Kong is what I called it. Did I share this in my videos? It's one of those mental things that I was going through, throughout life, of me not feeling like I was really good at much of anything. And then I get involved in arts and craft. And can I tell you a little something about people you assume are self-saturated and all they care about is their self, or all they care about is looks? For starters, that information came to me a few times, and I believe that people were wrong. For I have invested, especially when I did music, a great deal of time, but throughout life, with people, a lot of people would not invest time with. I spent a lot of time listening and loving people in a way that I knew damn well when they talked to me they were not receiving that, especially on a regular basis. When my connectivity to the human race seemed like it was not expanding in manners that you think would bring more joy into not only your life, but the life of many others, other people. What ends up happening eventually is if you surrender to the truth, you start focusing it more on what's going on inside of your head. And then you have photographs. Memorable ones. That's one of my favorite. And what I want to say is, when I started focusing more on going to the gym, getting laser, electrolysis, coloring my hair, putting makeup on my face. Not that I'm exceptional at it, especially because I do things in a casual way and try to be in a hurry so I can go about life that day. Never really took time to really get into it, but what I did do is remained committed to some form of healthier lifestyle, going to the gym extensively, but not the same way I once used to. More applying all the information that I gathered and adapting to a new approach for me. The things that were important, whether it's time in the sun, or what a lot of the world thinks might be silly for people is, they want the hair removed from their face or their legs. Okay? You start using lotions a lot more. Perfumes. A lot of the things that are dominantly for what is perceived as the genetic girl, female, their ways, sort of become more of your way. Not that you mastered it, but it becomes a focus that you exercise of the beautiful people that you met as you went through life. And this, if I follow in my life journey from feeling empty, feeling lost, feeling confused, feeling I don't understand why people are together when most people are miserable in their relationships, why people have certain jobs and they're miserable at their jobs, they don't like them, but they do it because they feel that's what has to be done, it needs to be done. Me confessing with my own lips God, I can't do life the way other people do. I admire people for a lot of the things that they do that I know I can't do. I'd be the first one to confess that truth, especially to God, especially to myself. I wish I could. It seems like that's what the masses or more people are doing. But the more people I talk to, the more people that seem hurt and dealing with a lot of the same psychological struggles. Focusing more on myself, though especially in the beginning stages appear to be goofy, it may appear you're lost, it may appear you're confused, it may appear you're desperate, it may appear a lot of things. And your brain, you, myself, is thinking, I'm just trying to do things that I really want to do in the struggle. And I don't know how to do life because I don't know 100% if I've ever really been taught that, especially the more that I come into knowledge. But that, focusing on self, becomes what I realize is like an art form. And relationships with people become like an art form. And for a long season of time, how to serve one another in brotherly, sisterly love comes in to an exercise on a regular basis, and at some point in your life, your brain will ask you, that same love you give to people, will you give to yourself? Not what other people see, what you know. Will you do it? And as you do it and you go through your struggles, it's confusing, it's traumatizing, it's scary, because that's when you really realize that I don't know if everybody else around me is seeing the truth of sincerity as to why I'm making the choices I'm making. I can't do life the way other people do it. Doesn't make sense to me. The things I really want to do seem unattainable. I can reach for it, but it doesn't mean I'm ever going to receive it. That same thing comes into the person you're looking at in the camera right now. Confidence is a lot different. What I learned when reading the Bible with Jesus Christ and staying focused has to be for me to do this. What might be easy for other people is a struggle that I'm overcoming with patience, love, gentleness, forgiveness for any form of what I perceive as I messed up, like a mistake. Even in this, I put a little bit too much glue on. Or get the next one better. Time. Feathers. Artsy, crafty type stuff. A love for my stuffed animals that I've always had my own. And I held on to a few, not understanding how if a human is supposed to be grown up and be an adult, how that even having a stuffed animal will start a conversation with people asking you something along the lines, what are you, gay? Are you mentally ill? Are you dependent? You would be surprised what I heard in some of the stuffed animals or matchboxes and stuff that I've had. I'm sure a lot of other people go through that. Anyway, one of my bigger struggles was playing guitar. It was something I always resorted back to. The first intro to guitar was Tracilyn. I love the sound. I want to touch one, get my hand smacked for doing it. To finally having a guitar, and it's funny to me when I hear about the 15-20 minute practice a day. That's a way to kind of encourage somebody to start off with at least. You want to at least play for 15-20 minutes a day. Practice your exercises, etc., etc. Difficult that is when you realize in the studio, it's from the time you wake up until you go and fall headfirst on a pillow. And you fight through tiredness. You fight through any form of depression or anything that would be against somebody with a willing heart sitting down and doing it. All of what started with self-focus and exercising the Word of God into the lives of people that I would cross paths with ended up in a circumstance as this, after spilling my heart out in video, not knowing what else to do, except for turn on the camera and start sharing the truth as you know it, the best that you can. Kind of like an Indian sending off smoke signals or SOS on an island, please help. I don't understand, and everything about my circumstances says I need someone or something to please love me. I don't think I think like other people at all anymore. I don't know what happened. It seems like there is a complete variance, difference in what I think as far as life goes versus a lot of people I cross paths with. To me, ends up seeming insensitive or harsh for me to do. And there were times that I felt like I needed like a nanny because I became very childlike. Not immature, still intellectually there, but an understanding I can't do life the way a lot of other people do it. And therefore, in this world, what does a person do? Then they end up becoming dependent. And when they become dependent, that's when you really realize that if you're not in the presence of others who can mentally deal with that in a mature way, you're kind of like screwed and booted around, and assumptions are made that are inaccurate, in my honest opinion. Coming here and finally having the opportunity to clear my mind has been amazing.